Today we're going to talk about coefficients versus exponents because a lot of you keep making the same mistakes and confusing the two. So it's really important now that we're going to compare the two and show exactly what the differences are. What is the coefficient and which one is the exponents? Yep, I hope that you said the coefficient is the 4 and that 2 and 3 are the two exponents in this term. So what is it that you notice are the same between exponents and coefficients? And what do you notice are some of the differences between exponents and coefficients? All right, we'll discuss that again at the end. So let's go through this. So what does the coefficient here tell us? The coefficient's the 4. It goes to the left of the variable. And what is it that it's telling us? Well, it's telling us that we have 4 x's. So instead of writing x plus x plus x plus x, if we have 4 x's, we're just going to write it as 4x. So the coefficient here tells us how many of the variable we have, and those are being added together. So let's try it now. Write this with a coefficient. Okay, let's see what you got. Hopefully you got 6x because, again, we had 6 x's that were all being added together. And instead of writing all those x's out, we just put a 6 and then an x. So write this one in expanded form. So instead of writing it with the coefficient of 3n, how would you write this in expanded form? That's right. We have 3 n's and they're all being added together. Okay. What does this exponent tell us? Here we've got a n to the 3rd power, so that's how we say it, or n cubed. So n to the 3rd power, it tells us that we have 3 n's, but they're being multiplied against each other, not added. So that's a big difference between coefficients and exponents. So write this in standard form with an exponent. Yep, that's right. There were 5 x's that were being multiplied together, and so that's why we wrote it as a 5, an x to the 5th power. If the x's were being added together, we would have put a coefficient next to it to the left. But since they were being multiplied together, we've got x to the 5th power, so it's an exponent. So write this r to the 8th power, write this in expanded form. That's right. So we have 8 r's, and they're all being multiplied together. So let's go ahead and review. What is the same about coefficients and exponents? Well, coefficients tell us how many of the variable is being added together, whereas exponents tell us how many of the variable or even how many of the coefficients are being multiplied together. So they're each telling us how many there are, but as we get here to the differences, the exponent tells us how many are being multiplied together, and the coefficient tells us how many are being added together. So again, the coefficient goes to the left of the variable. It's the same size as the variable. Coefficients can only be numbers, whereas exponents can be a number. It could also be a variable. So it could be y to the x power. In some cases, you'll see that in much more advanced math. And then, again, the biggest difference is the coefficient tells you how many of the variable are being added together. So coefficient added together, how many of the variable are being added together. whereas the exponent tells us how many are being multiplied together. Lastly, coefficients are always paired with a variable. Remember, if a coefficient does not have a variable, then it's called a constant. So coefficients are always paired with a variable, but exponents can be paired with a coefficient, it can be paired with a constant, it can be paired with the variable. So each one of those has an exponent. And remember, if you don't see the exponent, that means the exponent is 1.